questions? Okay. Let's start with this. So first question, how much of your political and or religious beliefs will influence your decision-making process when deciding on important issues that impact the children? We'll start here and then we'll go that way this time.
For the decisions made by the board, I don't know that political affiliation or religious affiliation should play any role. I think what's right is right, and the decisions should be based on what's best for the students and for the school district.
Neil?
None. It will not play any role in, for example, the safety issue, right, for our schools. It shouldn't be a debate on pro-guns versus, against guns, right? It should be, it's just an example, right? It should be, is that going to be efficient? Is that going to be within the fabric of Leonia or not? It shouldn't be across the lines of, I'm pro or against guns.
I agree with exactly what Neo just said, and I would say that just in being on the board for 6 years, there hasn't ever been a decision or a vote where I've seen religious or political views come into play, certainly for me or any of my colleagues, so I think it's independent.
Yeah, I would echo. I mean, zero. The board member's responsibility is quality of education for Leonia's kids. And that's it.
It's not a political position. We're not voting for Republicans or Democrats. We're voting for people that can best perform for the borough residents and the borough students. So I frankly have been attending public meetings for years in this town. I have not seen, even though there's Democrats and Republicans, I really haven't seen anybody that was elected show or demonstrate that their political or their religious beliefs were influencing their decisions, whether you agree with their decisions or not. So I don't think as they say, it's a non-burger.
Okay, so the next question is from the audience. In the past, I have observed the Board of Ed has not focused on issues brought about by the increased diversity in our schools. So what is your position on how Leonia could do better to support the changing demographics of Leonia? Neil, you're going to start off this one.
Definitely diversity is extremely important. So I'm not sure what was referred to in that question, but in my view, what can we do to hear more in terms of Leonia's changing characteristics? I guess I think it's to listen. I think as a board member, I try to listen to the people that are electing us, right, and to the problems, and to be involved all the time. I think one good thing is going to different events. The board members try to go to different events where we meet the folks from the town, so we can better understand the different problems from different people.
Maureen?
Oh, I go next. Can you just repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. The question was, what is your position on how Leonia could do better to support the changing demographics of our town?
I mean, I think as Neo said, I think, it's really just being involved and staying in touch with the community and knowing what people need. I think though, from my perspective, I think Leonia actually does a really good job in our schools with diversity. I think we really make efforts in all 3 buildings, whether it's different languages that are being spoken or just to accommodate. We translate a lot of stuff. We, we really promote tolerance and celebrate diversity a lot in multiple events in the buildings. And I've always thought of Leonia, certainly if you go to the high school and the middle school too, probably it's kind of an anomaly compared to other towns where the kids in this town are really accepting of anyone's background, of their orientation. We don't run into some of the issues that I read about, in other high schools and stuff. And I think a big part of that is a tribute to the administration and the teachers that we have in town, who I think really do a tremendous job day in and day out. Just sort of making it very welcoming and open and celebrating the diversity. So I don't think we have necessarily an issue to fix, but
Steve?
Yeah, obviously diversity is hugely important. I agree with Noreen. I think we do a pretty good job. Probably there may be some opportunities to have more events that kind of celebrate different cultures. So, you know, one example of something that we do is we have the meal event at ACS where people bring in, you know, dishes from their cultures and ethnicities, and you know, that's a really wonderful event. There's potential for us to have other events that would, I think, introduce everybody to the different cultures that are in Leonia. But I think we do quite a good job, and obviously, you know, open to any input from anybody in the community, any suggestions as well.
Arthur?
Diversity is a very, very broad topic, and there's, I think the town in general, the town and the board have done a very good job, from my perspective, in meeting the need as it develops. You really can't come up with a solution in advance of a problem. So if something surfaces, if something becomes an issue that needs to be addressed, I think the board and the town have done a pretty good job in that, with one exception. And that is if the Title IX compliance, which is, as I was actually shocked the other day at the Board of Education when I asked who the Title IX coordinator was for the schools, and nobody knew at the time, and the response was basically that it was sports related. Well, sports is one part of it, but Title IX is a total compliance issue regarding equality between men and women in sports, and not sports and everything, the menu of education to the student body. Now, why do I say that? Because I raised two girls and I went through the system. And I can tell you that when they were growing up through the school system, and I addressed this at a board meeting, frankly, and Mr. God, who was the superintendent at the time? I forgot. I charged them with being sexist, and everybody went, "Oh, you know, Leonia is sexist." Well, you were, because everything was for the boys, everything, the announcements, the focus, and a lot of it at that point in time. And I took offense to it, and I went on the record and said that, although they probably don't have the record because they just started recently recording and making these notes public. But I think they need to do, I intend on drilling down on that and making sure that, it may be in compliance, it may be better than it was, I don't know, but that'll be one of my focuses. But I think in general the town is pretty responsive to the needs of demographics as they change.
Thanks. Michael?
Diversity and inclusion is something I do as a huge part of my work, and it's something you can always improve upon. Even organizations I've worked with as a full-time employee or doing consulting work, when they say things like, "We do a great job," often they're correct, but there's always room for improvement. There's always some place you can advance. Every adult and every teacher has an unconscious biases. We all do. And I think part of the professional development for the teachers probably could include a bit more of making them aware of that, the fact that we all carry unconscious biases, and sometimes it has nothing to do with, it's often considered it's a bad person or it's a good person who is diverse and inclusive. It has nothing to do with being good or bad. It's more about the habits you've developed or the workplace and cultures you've been around. So I would say that making the teachers more aware of the words you use. Are you being more dismissive, as Arthur said, of girl students who might want to do something that you believe boys should do? We've also run into some of that. And creating what I call a speak up culture. The diversity and inclusion also, in my bucket, includes harassment and bullying, and working towards getting kids comfortable speaking up fast, not waiting a week, not waiting more than that. Speaking up if they feel a classmate is a danger to themselves or others, speaking up if they're being bullied, or a bystander speaking up on behalf of someone else. That is a huge part of diversity and harassment and an inclusive culture.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I have a two, isn't it working?
It's this little red light. Does that mean
I
it's
think it's okay.
it's okay? 'Cause
We'll
that's
keep
what mine
going,
was
and if
doing.
it-
Do you need another?
Oh, yeah, do you wanna, we'll start another recording.
Yeah.
You're gonna need an editor now.
Yeah. well,
If you, okay. Of course, there's that little red thing is flashing, and I
You
don't
can
know.
stop it and
Okay.
they're gonna